Hello everyone. I thought I'd shoot a quick video to, well, introduce you a little bit onto a project that I've been doing for the last, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. It's certainly dragged a long way, and slowly but surely I'm getting there bit by bit. I've been putting up photos and videos, well, actually not really videos, but mostly photos on the AULRO thread. But I thought I would just shoot a quick video of what I'm doing here. The project is a Discovery that's being converted down into a Ute. I've basically cut the car, well, the back end of the car off, built a tray frame for it, and I suppose one of the areas that I've been getting into, which is a lot more interesting, is the modification and design of the Twin Turbo 4-litre V8. Next up, I'm just going to show you quickly around what I'm doing here, and I don't know, maybe you might find it interesting, some of you won't, maybe it's a boring video, whatever. It's what I've been doing, and I'm enjoying doing it. And one of these days, hopefully I'll get to drive it. So let's have a look, shall we? Well, firstly, please excuse the mess. It's definitely, there are definitely quite a few tripping hazards in here. It's a bit difficult to keep the place clean and orderly when you're just one person, and what you want to do is get in here and play around and get things done. But in short, there's the car, which is half finished, a 1993 Land Rover Discovery, and over there is the test engine which I've been working on for the last, I don't know how long. It's where I'm doing all the mods and making sure that whatever I do works. Quite a few wheels there in the background, a bunch of parts over on the various shelves all through the place, and then I've got another area to the workshop where I do various other things. Again, it's a bit messy at the moment. Was playing around just before shooting this video, but I guess we'll just need to live with that. Right, with what I've done with the car, what I've essentially done is not only cut the body down, but I've also shortened the chassis a little bit and mounted, it's a bit difficult to see, but a winch mount onto the back of it. That was done quite a few years ago now, one of the first things that I did when I first cut the body back. I also designed and fabricated up the tray frame, which is all powder coated. I've got a couple of locations here to store the batteries, one over here, one on the other side. About 160 litres of LPG should be able to be carried on the car. I've tucked them both in here inside the tray. And I've made up these stiffeners, which are covered in these blankets, but they basically just go across to give it a bit more stiffness. They sort of surround the tanks, and should I get an impact on this part of the tray, it will at least transfer it over to the other side and just make it a little bit stronger. Got a couple of tubs made up. I wish my aluminium welding was as good as this, but it certainly is not. I've got a long way to go with my aluminium welding, but they turn out, tripping hazards, they turn out quite nicely. I've got the lights already put in there, and 3 areas of storage which have all been done, and all of the lights are all wired up, and I just did that last weekend, I think. Well, actually, before I leave the back, I've also, it's a bit hard to see, but I've also raised the spring perches by a couple of inches, and the shock mounts as well. So I made up these brackets. The tray bolts directly onto the chassis in 4 locations, and I do have some reshaped truck wheel arches, which are right here. They bolt onto these outriggers here, and they will also bolt onto the chassis. Sorry if it's a little bit blurry, but the camera doesn't autofocus, so just to remember to do that. With the body, there's a little bit of a Nissan, that part in there, but the rest of it is all my design, including the roof, which was an absolute pain to do out of fiberglass. I had to blend it all the way up to about this location here. That took an awful lot of sanding, especially getting this ridge right. And this gutter here is made out of steel. I think this gutter was probably the very first thing that I started on. This project started when I was in Melbourne, and that was basically the first thing I made. And it was all welded onto the internal frame of the roof, and then I fiberglassed onto it. This is all a mix of fiberglass and steel. I had that laser cut, and I used a foam and fiberglass all through here to make all of this profile. That's a bit of the original door, which again, fiberglassed, and then it changes to steel to make it look a little bit nicer. Overall, I'm quite happy with the way that turned out. And I've used the original window frames in here. I've still got a bit of an issue about what I'm going to do for the glass, because you can't cut toughened glass, and this is a curved panel. This is a curved panel, so it's a little bit tricky. Looking inside, I've reused the original hinge mounts. That's where the structure of the rear wall bolts onto. There's a bit of junk inside the car when I moved. But you can see here where I've used the foam and some stiffening ribs. I used those ribs in there to give me the shape of the roof. And it's just basically steel construction on the inside. Sorry, it's a bit dark in here. I don't know how to turn on the light. But you just have to make do with what you can see there. So I don't think the back is going to bend anytime soon with the amount of steel that I put into it. But yeah, basically tack welded the metallic panels onto the steel frame. And you can see over there, it's a bit far to reach, but the foam and some steel ribs holding the frame. And I also relocated this roof stiffener with some modifications to support the roof towards the middle here. I haven't done anything towards the front, it's all original. My objective is to try and make the car look as original as possible. So I haven't really done anything in the inside yet, but I will have to get to that at some point or the other. So I believe that's about everything there is to the car, which is a bit scary because I think I spent about 2 years trying to get the bloody body finished. Well, if I think of anything else, I'll add it in a little bit later to the video, but aside from that, the body's lifted. I used a kit for that though. You can see the various parts. Let's see if I can just get this to focus a little bit better. I used a 2-inch body lift kit, especially at the front as well. And there's a bull bar. I think it's a White Tiger body lift kit that I've used. Haven't done anything with this engine here. This engine's just for mock-up. Nothing really, it's just all gutted. That engine has to come out so I can get to the gearbox, because my new gearbox is ready, but they won't give it to me until I give them the old box. So I've got to get that out now, and which is going to be a painful job, and dirty as well. Not much I can do about that. Right, I think that's all there is to say about the car. Okay, so onto the engine. This is probably one of the areas I'm having most fun with, actually. Like I mentioned at the beginning, what I'm doing here is building a Twin Turbo 4-litre V8 based on the Rover V8 engine. Because of the extent of the modifications that I'm doing, I didn't trust myself in doing this while the engine is in the car. Sorry, it's out of focus. So what I did was, there was a car that I pulled a bunch of parts out of, and I chopped the chassis out of it, and I've basically used that as a test bed frame. So the whole engine sits on this cut down chassis. The legs are various chassis rails, which ended up working reasonably well. That's the back of the chassis. These are the main rails that go across the middle of it, and this is the front. I'm going to have to, this will be the third attempt to do this shot. The last attempt was foiled by a quick visit by my landlord. Anyway, she's a nice lady and came for a quick chat. Just wanted to share quickly what I'm doing with this engine. Like I mentioned before, it is a twin turbo V8. what I've done is I've taken a couple of Subaru WRX turbos. The WRX engine is a 2-litre, and the camera is struggling to focus again. So I've gotten a couple of reconditioned turbos, one on either side. Manufactured, well, I designed and manufactured all this exhaust manifolding here. It's all really tight. I had to do a lot of trial fits with what's in the car to make sure everything clears. There's a lot of stuff that can get away, and as you can see, this is all very, very tight. Really did struggle quite a bit. There's an onboard air compressor. The dump pipe, which is a bit hard to see, just clears the compressor. This is going to be a maintenance nightmare. I can't get really easy access to the manifold bolts anymore. I bought this engine's out of a guy's car that I bought, and he had already done a modification of a much larger alternator, the onboard air, so I'm trying to keep all of that. Also, coil packs. These are the Ute coil packs, so it's wasted spark. I'm running LPG vapor injection. I'm using a Prince system, and there's the regulator over there, and that feeds a filter and a splitter. Inside here there's a temperature and pressure sensor, and then that goes to, and it's a bit difficult to see, maybe a bit easier on the other side, to these vapor LPG injectors. So they're all just tucked in there underneath the intercooler cores. Intercooler cores. My design, my concept. I hope it'll work. I didn't want to put the intercoolers, or the intercooler rather, on the front of the car, because when you're forward driving you do get a lot of mud and it ends up blocking the cores, so I decided to put it on top, and I'll put a couple of thermofans on top and a scoop to catch the air when we're going at speed. But the pipe runs will be rather short out of the turbo, and the reason why the left side and the right side is different is because this side actually has to clear the brake booster, and unfortunately there was absolutely nothing I could do about that. The core sizes need to be about this size, and as a result I did have to put this angle. Throttle bodies are out of a, well, I've got two of them obviously. These are out of Holden Vectras. They're the best fit. They're again 2-litre engines, about the right size, and I've got one on either side, idle valves, and so on and so forth. So the fun thing is trying to control it all. So I've got to control these idle valves, I've got to control the injectors correctly, I've got to compensate for fluctuation in temperature and pressure of the LPG gas that's feeding the injectors. There's another thing to some very, very, if it decides to focus, as you can see I've got some very technical, or how would you say, very sophisticated radiator brackets. That's, I think that's part of one of the Land Rovers I chopped up. I think it's the brace that goes across the front onto the latch, but they fit perfectly. So the radiator's held in place on this test engine. But what I wanted to show was right down where, it's going to be a bit difficult to see, but I did make a cam position sensor where the distributor used to go. So right in there's a cam position sensor. I had to machine and I've got photos up on my thread. I had to machine it's all a bit dark with all the lighting, but I had to machine a Ford cam synchronizer, I think it was called, onto the base of a Land Rover distributor. Worked quite well. Obviously there's the crank position sensor, and that all had to be wired back into the Ute control module and then into the Mega Squirt. It's all hard line for the oil lines. It's all a bit dirty, but anyway, the left-hand side is a bit simpler with the ducting, or the dump pipe on the exhaust from the turbo. I did put quite a bit of effort into, my background is an aeronautical engineer, so the way things flow is quite important for me, and that's why I didn't just do a dirty dump pipe from the turbo, but I went and did 2 independent runs. The camera's struggling to focus again, but much I can do about that. I don't think there's all that much more to say about this. I am running a wideband exhaust oxygen sensor, and that silencer's off a truck because the neighbours did complain about the amount of noise this engine was making, so I had no choice but to stick something on to quiet it down. Might as well try to give it to see if it'll start actually. It is quite difficult to start. I have a lot of work to do with the tuning. You know, controlling the idle valves, the enrichment during cranking, compensation for temperature, etc., etc. It really is quite difficult, but I'll slowly get there. Let's just see if it will start. I'm not sure. It's usually a bit of a two-hand operation, but let's see if it will. I think it would help if I actually turned on the gas. Let's try that again, shall we? It still hunts for idle. I haven't figured out how to really address that, but slowly but surely I'll get there. This is the pressure gauge on the LPG vapor feed into the injectors. It is also picking up temperature as well. However, I need to do a lot of work with the compensations there. Right. Well, that's about the extent of the project, really. I'm not sure if the video would be very interesting or not, but you never know. Maybe someone out there will find this interesting. I'm certainly enjoying the process. I guess you could call me a really typical engineer. Most people probably wouldn't bother spending the amount of time and effort in doing something like this, but I get a kick out of it, and hopefully when this is all together it will work well. I hope. If not, I guess I'll have to do some more work to it. If you have any questions about the build, you can just look me up on the AULRO thread, or feel free to put some comments down here on YouTube, and I can answer some questions. But this is probably going to take another 8 months. The new engine's on order. I've got a gearbox finished. I need to sort out some things for the diff. I need to buy the suspension system, and I've got to do all the wiring. All the wiring that you saw here was all temporary, so there's still a lot I've got to do, but surely but surely I'll get there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll do another video later. I don't know. We'll see. Depends if I have something interesting to show.